Well, how you doing, everybody? Today is the 4th of July, and we all know it's the 250th birthday of the United States of America from the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It just sort of seems like there's no build up to it this year, no crescendo. Like, or I'm just not 12 years old anymore, much less 10. I remember we used to load up the station wagon and Jeannie and Steve Bierman would come with us, and my dad would drive us to the fairgrounds in Memphis, Tennessee, for the fireworks show, and it was as it should be. It was interesting. And then um, later on, where we played golf at Ridgeway in Memphis, Tennessee, they had a big fireworks to do on the 4th of July, and it was always entertaining. Just good food, good people, everybody having a good time. This year, it is what it is. I can't change it. It's my attitude, not somebody else's attitude. But it's interesting that 50 years ago is certainly was different than it is this year. I remember that very vividly, and it just just is what it is, kind of a thing. Anyway, so I promised on the last video that I would sort of share with you my big trip out west from when I was living in Florida uh, to making a decision that I was going to move back to Las Vegas. But I probably ought to cover how I wound up moving to Florida in the first place. So I'll try to do that in this one, and then in the next one I'll bring up the trip out west in June of 2023. So in the spring of 2019, I just sort of decided I was going to do a road trip, me and Frosty. Frosty goes everywhere with me. I miss her very much. But so we were going to, head east with the thought process of let's sort of look for a place to move. If we were going to move, where will we move to and why? So the first stop was in Houston. I was a big Joel Osteen fan at the time, and always wanted to attend a service at Lakewood, and did that. It was spectacular. Hopefully, I'll be able to share some pictures with you of that as I learn the video editing program that I'm trying to learn. But I need some help with that. So anyway, so we went to a Joel Osteen service on a Sunday morning in Houston at Lakewood. It was great. It was quite an experience. Almost like the World Series. People come from all over. I mean, I was standing behind people that come from the Philippines, and the young man to my right, he was I don't want to say destitute, but he was hurting. And when it came to make an offering, he had no money, so I put some money in the basket. Well, I gave it to him to put in the basket. So a mitzvah, ironically enough, kind of a feeling. So anyway, so after the service, Frosty and I get in the car and we head east, and we're going to go to Biloxi. I've always heard good, fun things about Biloxi. Good poker, good beach. Sometimes not the best weather, but if you can avoid the hurricanes, it's probably pretty good. So we pulled into Biloxi, sort of checked it out a little bit. I found it a little strange that to get to the beach, you needed to cross the highway, a very busy highway. And I'm like, anyway, found forgot what exact casino, but it was the MGM casino. Went there and played poker. Had a really good time. They had really good food. I'm going, man, this is really nice. But let's keep looking. So as a kid, uh, I think I was a senior in high school, and the high school band took a trip to Panama City Beach, Florida, and they had the best roller coasters ever. All wooden, all fast, all clickety clack kind of a thing. Had a great time. Certainly got into some trouble as some of the arcades trying to cheat the machines and stuff, but we survived. And I thought, well, let's go to Panama City Beach and take a look. We did that. And as I pulled into the beach, all you can do is look straight up at all these humongous high rise condominiums. And I go, yeah, not so much. And I thought about Destin, and we'd already passed Destin and didn't really want to go backwards per se for whatever reason. I just said, well, I'll probably you know, not going to really hit anything. And looking back, I probably should have gone to Destin and taken a look at that. But anyway, so we got back in the car and started heading east. And the GPS, Google Maps, took us through some back roads that showed us how devastating. I think it was Hurricane Michael. I could be wrong on that, but I think it was Hurricane Michael that had just wiped out this part of the panhandle of Florida. So as we were driving east and going through some of these communities, these palm trees were like bent over one way. I mean, just bent over and then broke, but you can see where they bent over. A lot of them were still there, but just bent. It was just crazy, crazy. 30 miles down the road, they were the opposite direction because the hurricane had come around. Man, that was sort of it was a good dose of Mother Nature. Like, it's not nice to fool Mother Nature. I don't know who fooled her there, but anyway, so we got back up to I-10 eventually, but and I was very impressed by the storm damage per se. And I think we decided to go ahead and head on into Jacksonville, or maybe we stayed somewhere that night. I forgot which, but anyway, the next stop, as far as visiting, was going to be visiting my really good friends, best friends in the world, best people in the world ever, Kern and Jane Baker, who were living in St. Simon's Island in Georgia. So I'm pretty sure we must have stayed and overnight. But anyway, so we drove in, and I would actually wind up being a day ahead of the schedule for us to be in St. Simon's. So we just drove into Jacksonville, and we went to Jacksonville Beach and got out and took a short walk along the beach, and all of a sudden just meeting some really incredible people that were just could not have been kinder. And I'm pretty sure they just wanted to meet Frosty, but it was very interesting. I sort of made my mind up right then and there. If I was going to move someplace, if I was going to pull up roots in Las Vegas and move someplace, and I had the opportunity, could afford to live on the beach, I think it'd be right here. So I asked this one guy, I says, like, what does it cost to live in Jacksonville Beach? And he shared me some numbers that he's familiar with. I go, maybe I'm just going to do that. Not maybe, I am. So made the decision that we're going to have a great road trip, and we're going to go back and we're going to put our house up for sale, and we're going to move to Jacksonville Beach, Florida. So I got in the car and figured, what are we going to do? And so we headed down to St. Augustine to go to World Golf Hall of Fame, which I've never been to before. And that was a very enjoyable experience, a lot because I'm honored to know a lot of people and have met a lot of people that are in the World Golf Hall of Fame. One in particular, Henry Longhurst, who is most likely, in my opinion, one of the best golf broadcasters ever to put a microphone near him and share his crisp, vivid, colorful knowledge with the golfing world. I met him when I was working the Dinah Shore Classic in Palm Springs with ABC Sports. And we were at a production meeting because I was working the 18th Tower with Dinah Shore and David Foster from Colgate and Chris Schenkel and Dave Marr and Byron Nelson and a very famous lady golfer. I just can't remember her name. I want to say Margaret Smith, but that's wrong. And so I was in a production meeting and sort of like felt way out of place, but just way out of place. And I turn around and here comes Henry Longhurst with his hand out to me. Don, I'm Henry Longhurst. Anyway, so he had a very nice display there at the World Golf Hall of Fame, as did Tom Watson, as did Frank Chirkanian, as did so many, Amy Alcott. It was just really a nice afternoon. And so I figured, so we got back in the car. I figured we'll find a place in Jacksonville to spend the night, and then we'll go up to St. Simon's in the morning and catch up with Kern and Jane. And I posted on Facebook, how we had spent our day at Jacksonville Beach and gone down to World Golf Hall of Fame. And I'm tooling back up to 95, and the phone rings, and it's Kern Jane. Well, you know what? We're here in Jacksonville tonight. Why don't you come join us? We're going to the Little Feat concert at the Florida Theater. Okay, we can do that. So pulled off to the side of the road, called the Florida, or called, went online to the Florida Theater, bought myself a ticket, and met up with Kern Jane. It's just amazing. And of course, after the concert was great. After the concert, I drove up to St. Simon's, and I think I spent about 3, maybe 4 days there. I don't remember which, but it was. I'd been there before. I flew in one time to visit them, and been there. It was just very, very, very nice. So told them I'm 99.999% sure I'm going to go back to Jacksonville, to Las Vegas, put the house up for sale, and move to Jacksonville Beach. So we were having a great time, and then I look on Facebook. I get a post from Ken Kessinger, who I went to school with at East High School in Memphis, Tennessee, before I went to Christian Brothers High School in 9th grade. And he's now living in Savannah, Georgia, and he's insisting that I come up because my next stop is going to be in Memphis to see my mom. And of course, my brother and his wife, and who I'm sure Zach and whatever are going to be there as well. And I go, oh, sure. And I asked if Kern Jane can come along. He says, we're going to have some barbecue for you that you will never forget. And he was right about the never forget part. It was good. It was interesting to see Ken because I really hadn't seen him since at least 9th grade. And he has some adventures as well. He's very much into music, as is Kern Jane. So it was a good meetup for everybody, and had a great time. Ken wanted me to spend the night. I just said, no, I need to get going. And so we headed east along, I guess it was a 22 by the time we got through Atlanta. And I wanted to go to Rosedale, Mississippi, which is where my dad went to school. Somehow or another, my grandparents, Joe Rubenstein and his wife Rose, after going through Ellis Island and whatever, I don't know how the whole string occurred, wound up in Rosedale, Mississippi, of all places, from Russia and Poland to Rosedale, through Ellis Island to, I guess, New York, to, I guess, Massachusetts, where my grandmother's family had moved to, and immigrated to Rosedale, Mississippi. Lots of stories, about Rosedale, and my grandfather owned a farm there, a cotton farm. He owned a general store and all kinds of things. And so I got into Rosedale, Mississippi, literally on fumes because Google Maps took me through some interesting routes, but did not have gas stations, even though, fortunately, I was driving a Prius. So we got to Rosedale. First thing I did was fill up at the gas station in Rosedale. And I saw the high school across the street from the gas station, and that obviously is where my dad went to school. But I just, I wanted to see if there was any record of the Rubensteins in Rosedale, Mississippi, and went to the library, and there was nothing there. The librarian suggested that actually she put in a call for me to somebody down the road, and I forgot what town, wherever University of Southern Mississippi is. See if she could assist, and she called me on the way there. Says, you know what, for whatever reason, I just can't find anything. But we know it happened because we had my dad's high school graduating class. I think it was all 12 people. And then his cousins, the Horowitzes, Benny in particular, went to school in Rosedale because they had come over from Poland just before World War II to escape Hitler, and didn't speak a word of English. And so this is where Benny in particular learned how to speak English. And then the way that the Horowitzes got into the United States was via poker. And I always sat on the fence on this story, but it's been confirmed that my grandfather was very good friends from a senator from Mississippi. And to get people into the country expeditiously at this point in time, you needed a family law bill passed. So my grandfather apparently was playing poker with this senator from Mississippi, and in exchange for wiping out a loss from the senator to my grandfather, he agreed to do a family law bill to get the Horowitzes through Ellis Island, out of Europe through Ellis Island and wherever they wanted to go. And they wind up, of course, in Rosedale, Mississippi. So anyway, that was my Rosedale, Mississippi adventure. We've gone from Biloxi, we've gone to Panama City Beach, we've gone to Jacksonville Beach, went to St. Augustine for the World Golf Hall of Fame, went to St. Simon's, had a great time at Kern Jane, up to Savannah to see Ken Kessinger and his wife Susie, and then off toward Memphis and south to Rosedale. Now we're heading back north to Memphis. And that's what we did. This is my mom's birthday, is in the March, and sort of shared with everybody that I'm 99.99999% sure that I'm going to be moving to Jacksonville Beach. I'm going to figure it out, but I can put my house up for sale, and it's a why not kind of a thing, you know. Why not? Why not do it? So anyway, spent several days there, visiting my mom, and I guess there's some other family around, and interesting family environment. But that's what we did. So after that adventure was over, Frosty and I got back in the car, headed back to Vegas, put our house up for sale on Saturday. Had it up for sale for about a week, and it wasn't getting much action. And I lived on a golf course with a view of the entire Las Vegas Valley. There'd be no golf ball activity because we were behind the 17th hole at Highland Falls Golf Course here in Las Vegas in Sun City, Summerlin. So the way we got golf balls were people that knew me and knew where I lived. They would fire a golf ball up toward the house. But anyway, so I took a for sale sign and taped it to the back of one of my lawn chairs and put it out there facing the 17th green at Highland Falls. And no sooner than an hour had passed and some guy called me and he wants to buy my house pretty much sight unseen. You know, well, come on up and see it. And so that's what happened. And I made the move. Sandy assisted me in having a heck of a moving sale. We got rid of everything pretty much because Sandy just kept pushing stuff out front and wanted to get it sold. And what a wonderful lady, what a wonderful friend. And we moved to Jacksonville Beach, Florida. So that's the story on being in Florida. Next video, the decision time of coming back to Las Vegas. Happy 4th of July.